I just want to give a quick bio on our speakers for today. Our first one is Mr. Joseph Muserero, who is the information scientist in the Directorate of Monitoring, Evaluations and Inspections in the Office of the Prime Minister of Uganda. He is a public officer with vast experience in local and central government performance assessments. Over a long period of his involvement in performance monitoring and inspections, he exhibited enormous experience in coordinating and managing Uganda's M&E systems and tools, one of which includes the Ugandan Barazas. Further, in the implementation of all national development plans, he has been the program expert in charge of performance, data, and information management for the programs of digital transformations and innovations technologies. Welcome, Mr. Joseph. I'll quickly introduce our second speaker, who is Mr. Thabo Makhosane, who is the Chief Director in the Frontlines Monitoring and Support Division at the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluations in the South African Presidency. He's a holder of an honors degree in spatial planning. Mr. Makhosane is an urban planning professional with extensive experience. His experience ranges from monitoring and development planning fields involving frontline monitoring and support for FM&S, executive monitoring, presidential special Imbizos projects, township and neighborhood revitalization, urban renewal, economic development, and integrated development planning, I&D, and land use management and spatial planning. As you can see, colleagues, both of our presenters have extensive experience in the two topics or the two tools of community-based monitoring, which are Barazas and Imbizos, which we really want to get a sense of. And now I would like to welcome Mr. Muserero to please present.
I will first just take a second and talk about the word Baraza. This is a Swahili word, as I've already highlighted in the first slide, that ordinarily it means a veranda, and it was used by the past African freedom fighters during the liberation wars as a platform where they could gather and try to assess themselves to see where they exhibited success stories and maybe failure stories, and find a way how they could revamp themselves to see that they meet the goal of their struggle. So now, in the Ugandan context, the question is, what is the Baraza program? This is a public service delivery result monitoring tool that involves engaging all stakeholders. It is a platform that promotes routine assessment and follow-up on the progress of the implementation of the public programs in the local community. In short, Barazas become a tool for enhancing participatory monitoring of services and causing ownership of public programs by the beneficiary communities. Now, at every Baraza, there is information sharing and information gathering by the interested parties. But this information from the Baraza is very useful in informing the overall government performance assessment tools, the broader tools of government that assess government. In Uganda, we have a number of them. One of them is the National Annual Performance Review Tool. and half annual performance review tool, and then the local government management service delivery. These produce reports that look at the broader perspective of government in terms of performance. Now, how was it institutionalized in government as one of the best tools? Originally, government has been having a number of policies, and one of the policies and an outstanding policy that seek to enhance service delivery in the local communities is the decentralization policy. But whenever the decentralization policy has been reviewed, there are a number of gaps that are always outstanding, a number of challenges that are outstanding. And one of the challenges has been the information gap between the political leaders and the technocrats, the gap between technocrats and the service receivers who are the local community, and also between the political leaders and the local community. That's a tripartite challenge of information gap. So His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda in 2009, found a mitigation measure to this gap in the decentralization policy implementation. He saw it that's better for the local community members to be brought on board and be engaged, be mobilized and engaged into participatory monitoring of public service delivery results. Two, that these people need to be brought also and empowered through disclosure of information to enable them also have the knowledge and the power to task the leaders, the service givers, to give accountability to resources that have been spent. So because of that now, that was the justification that Barazas should be established in the government as advocacy fora that brings stakeholders together to monitor and assess the performance of our government. So the major objective, actually, as I've said already, it's to bridge the gap between the political leaders and citizens, political leaders and technocrats, technocrats and citizens. The purpose is to improve performance in tracking results and also having feedback from the community that we serve. We need to see the stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders for this tool called Barazas in Uganda here, they depend on the level or the level at which the Barazas is implemented. We have three major levels at which we implement Barazas. The first level is the regional Barazas level. The regional Barazas level has Barazas that are extraordinary. These Barazas are chaired by the Right Honorable Prime Minister, and they are conducted at regional level within the country. The Barazas that are at regional level are attended by stakeholders. These are strategic policy makers, the development partners, the district and city executives, who normally come to review performance progress on strategic midterm outcome targets, and also look at the ruling government manifesto strategic commitments, but based on the National Development Plan, currently now the NDP3 program, which is being implemented in the country. I will not talk much about the pictures, but I can just say that the pictures are trying to relate exactly the level that I'm talking about. Okay. Now the level number 2 is those are the Barazas that are implemented at district level or city division level. These are chaired by the chief monitor of government programs in the local government, known as the resident district commissioner. If this person is at the city level, is called this resident city commissioner. Participants are invited from all over the district local government without restrictions. But the first one, you can only attend on invitation. And here, an OPM minister presides over the Barazas at this level. It normally involves area ministers, area members of parliament, central and local government technical officials, the private sector representatives, civil society, cultural, opinion, cultural, opinion, and religious leaders, and the entire community from the local government. At this level, Barazas review progress of output performance targets of activities that are implemented in the lower local governments. That's the Minister for General Duties at a district Baraza, or at that level Baraza. Now, the last one, the third one, is the sub-county type or level of Baraza, chaired by the resident district commissioner, presided over by an OPM minister. And also, this type of Baraza at this level will review progress of the output performance targets. And at the moment, at this Baraza, we look at the parish, we look at the performance of the parish development model, which is a new strategy that has been put to ensure that the remaining 39% of the people of Uganda who are not in the money economy are brought into the money economy through a number of approaches that are looking at 7 pillars of implementation. So we go up the parish level at this level. Participants are invited from the sub-county, a town council, or a municipal division. That's the RDC at a sub-county Baraza in Budaka district. Now, we look at the level of uptake of Uganda's Barazas. Generally, there has been an unprecedented uptake of the program by both the duty bearers, policymakers, development partners, and the community. This is clearly evidenced through the high demand for the Barazas and the passionate participation by the local citizens, MPs, ministers, development partners, society elders, opinion leaders. But originally, it was not really understood. There was a lot of ping pong, and this was because of political sentiments. As all countries in Africa, you know, we have a lot of political sentiments. People may think maybe this approach is coming either to who votes for somebody else, but with time, now the community, the policymakers, the partners, development partners are all getting to know that this is the tool that's best technically on performance assessment. On average, Barazas are attended by between 500 and 600 participants. Okay, now how government is now using the Baraza. I'll just pick a few things, but there are a number of bullets that I've outlined here. Now, through the Baraza, government is providing information and involving public service beneficiaries in project monitoring to improve both the quality and quantity of local public service delivery. Government is using these Barazas to identify the stalled, dragged, substandard, and even shoulder work projects in the local communities. And then through the Baraza, we have found out such types of projects, we reprioritize their resumption and completion. Barazas are used to popularize government policies and programs and projects for purposes of encouraging the communities to own these strategies of government. Otherwise, communities can end up thinking that these programs belong to government, but not them. So Barazas are encouraging communities to own programs of government. Barazas are used as platforms for awareness creation, knowledge sharing, strengthening the honored person to also have their rights, empowering them to demand for good services, gender responsiveness, good governance, and the rule of law in accordance with Chapter 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, which says that power belongs to the people. So these Barazas are tools they are tools. Currently, we have the NDP 3 and the SDG. Now, at national level, if we don't mention our progress in the implementation of the NDP 3 at the Baraza, then the communities shall never know what exactly are we meeting, what level have we progressed in meeting our goal. And also SDGs, yes, these are global strategies, but many of these SDGs have particular areas in the country where the community need to be oriented on their progress. For example, we have barazas that we conduct at the fishing villages to ensure that people get to know exactly the level at which we are preserving life under the water. Okay. Most often, government raises barazas to solve other budget-neutral public concerns. For example, gender-based violence, recovery of stolen public goods through whistleblowing. Some community members can act as whistleblowers because it is a policy in Uganda. People are allowed to whistleblow. Abating public servant absenteeism, realigning priorities to better match with the needs of the local citizens, which becomes now demand-driven planning. So communities are brought on the planning table through the barazas. Contribution to the barazas, to the local government, DMEI systems and human rights. The program has attracted, for example, a lot of interest from various development partners, UNDP, EU, among others. They have invested resources for enhancing the local government M&E systems, plus translating even budget information materials into local language to ensure that the citizens engage the leaders in meaningful debate during barazas. I want to applaud the EU for that. During the barazas in the northern region of Uganda, they really invested a lot of money to see that people get to have the budget information in the local language. It was good. Development concerns and issues that are raised during the barazas are submitted to the MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, and the local governments for action. And there is continuous monitoring and follow-up in the local government. We normally generate a matrix of issues which guides the RDCs and the cows to keep on following up. Another thing is that when the baraza is being arranged in a sub-county, normally, as we had said before, that stalled projects are now embarked on. For example, this was one of the baraza that was being conducted in Karugutu, one of the places in Uganda here. The pictures on your left show a week when the baraza is being announced, and the picture on your right show now when the baraza has been done, and you can see that it has the way it is a driver. The tool is a driver towards awakening this the service givers about what should be done, what should be done right. Okay. There's a quick responsiveness of government to the demands of the citizens. Participatory monitoring leads to ownership. We've talked about that. Through the baraza, citizens boldly input to their prioritized livelihood concerns in the sub-county, town council, municipal and district plans, which feed into the overall NDP. And it's like now the National Development Plan is actually receiving input from the local community, unlike before, when there was still an information gap. The citizens could just see outputs, but they could not know how it began. So there was a black box in IT, they say, a black box, where people can see the output, but they don't know how the output came about on the screen. That one now is getting washed away through the barazas. Physical disbursement from Ministry of Finance to the local governments are openly presented to the local citizens at the baraza. Through the media, citizens are empowered on how to access the budget allocations via the government budget website. This is commensurate with the Right to Public Information Act. In Uganda, this act is a very strong act, and through the barazas, the act is being put to use. There has been a gradual reduction in the corruption perception index, which has reduced now from 155 in 2015 to around 144 in 2020. But all this is attributed to partly to the implementation of the baraza in the country. One other contribution is emphasis on follow-up. Barazas really have that other section for monitoring and follow-up on the implementation of the recommendations that were made during the baraza. And we don't do it alone as technocrats, but also we are joined by the ministers. Now, for example, that picture shows the Minister for Northern Uganda plus the technocrats trying to follow up on issues that were raised on schools that have been constructed forever. These are projects that have stalled, and government has dished in billions of money. So that such issues are raised during the Baraza, and then they are being followed up. The percentage range in terms of issues that are being implemented after the Baraza has been improving from 55 to 60, that range in the financial year 2018-19 to now 70 to 75 in the financial year 2022-2023. That's the recent monitoring report that has already indicated that improvement. This is due to the acquired basic M&E knowledge that the RDCs are the chief monitors of government programs at the district, municipal, and city level. But through the Barazas, they are already acquiring a lot of knowledge, basic knowledge in M&E. They can be able to now identify a good output indicator. Yes. They can be able to identify and also follow up on the procurements. And this is putting in a lot of success regarding service delivery. Now, regarding legal actions, there are legal actions that come up during the Baraza. The Right Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda has been able to direct the responsible agencies to take action by fast-tracking the progress of investigations, if they need investigations, audits, they need further audits, and court processes. The agencies include the Police for investigations, the Auditor General for audit, and the Attorney General for court processes. The media services have been brought down to the lower local governments to make the ordinary person's voices be heard, as indicated in the media crew picture below. So, since we are talking about rights, the media has also been so much involved. And with these presentations, I can say this is so far partly the contribution of the Barazas, Uganda's Barazas, to government performance for the last 10 to 11 years. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Muserero. I want to quickly, and thank you for keeping to the time. I want to quickly go to Mr. Makhosane to present. Colleagues, just another reminder that we will be taking questions. Feel free to throw your questions into the chat box or raise your hand when we do get to the question and answer session, and then we will allow you to unmute yourself and to pose your question. Mr. Makhosane, you are welcome to present, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Maybe let me also extend my thanks to my colleague, Mr. Muserero, for a very comprehensive presentation that he's just presented to us. And as this is a learning platform, we will be gaining quite a bit from his presentation. Chairperson, thank you very much also for the invitation that as the DPME and in South African government can be also be invited to present the Imbizos program that we have. We may go to the next slide, Chair. The presentation will cover the following. We'll touch on the mandate of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. We will then explain what an Imbizo is. We'll also embed the context of the legislative context. And we will also highlight on the iterative processes that leads to impact. We will also demonstrate the planning and monitoring processes that are involved in the Imbizo program. And then we'll also touch on the stakeholders that form part of the Imbizo, and then also a slight demonstration on the institutionalization component. Chairperson, the mandate of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation is fourfold. It touches on the planning, which is both for the national planning and long-term planning, which at the end of the day needs to then be monitored. And we monitor it through monitoring the National Development Plan. And also we utilize the medium-term strategic framework to assess the impact and also to look at the implementation of all the commitments that are enshrined in the National Development Plan. We also evaluate government programs that are critical in order to sharpen our planning and also our monitoring. And as we do the evaluation, we then also touch on how better we improve in terms of our programs as government. And then lastly is the intervention element that in recent times we've seen ourselves really having to be doing quite a bit of intervention, as we know that we've just come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, which required a shift in terms of government programs. And then also recently we've had our floods that had hit the country, and that also required national intervention. We may go to the next slide. Chairperson, the purpose of today's paper is what is an Imbizo? And I think as my colleague have actually also illustrated the importance of having an Imbizo, we also thought it would be important for us to give it a bit of context and give you where this comes from. The Imbizo is a Zulu name derived from a verb visa, meaning a call. A call to come together, a call to convene, and hence an Imbizo is actually a coming together or a meeting or a gathering. Where I come from a very small village, these Imbizos would be called by elders to come and correct or even meet to come up with solutions to any problem that the community may be experiencing. The same has now been translated into government program, and in the context of South Africa, the Imbizo is a unique participatory platform that fosters public participation and meaningful dialogue between those that are elected and our communities. Chairperson, the Imbizo program is actually a participatory program that takes government to the people. It is championed by the president of our country, President Cyril Ramaphosa, hosted in various provinces by the premiers and also the executive mayors and mayors. The primary aim of the Imbizo is to have a platform where government can engage directly with the communities and discuss their needs, and also assess the quality of service provided by government to them. So this platform is actually a platform where political officials and also even officials can actually articulate government programs and towards the citizens. It also allows us an opportunity to provide hands-on monitoring where there are areas that requires improvements. We are able to then engage it accordingly. Chairperson, in recent times, the president introduced what we call the district delivery model, where this has now demonstrated a very strong participatory democratic process. And in his inaugural speech of this program, he said that we need not to leave anyone behind. And you will see that that's been the theme throughout, and he's refused to have anyone being left behind in planning and also in the development of their areas. The Imbizo program is embedded within our constitution. The constitution of a country indicates or instructs us that we need to be transparent, we need to be accountable, and we need to be responsive to the needs of our citizens. And this is quoted in section 195 of our constitution. There are other legislative requirements or the legislative pieces of policies that have been put in place to strengthen participation at different levels of government. Some of those, Chair, includes the Local Government Municipal Systems Act, which also strengthens local government, or I would say participation at the local government sphere. The other piece of legislation is the Intergovernmental Relations Framework that really strengthens intersphere engagements and also collaboration of the different spheres of government. With regards to the impact that the Imbizo program has, and I think it's also important for us to illustrate that the importance of the bottom-up and top-down iterative process is quite very important and very key. Chairperson, the planning and also even the actual implementation of government programs have to be such that it is directed by the local sphere and also implemented and have an impact through the National Development Plan. I think this illustrates the importance of both the bottom-up and the top-down process that are actually quite important in the development of our citizens. And key to this is that in all of this, there needs to then be a very strong public participation process that happens, and also have a citizen-based monitoring program that is quite strong in order to see to that whatever that is in the National Development Plan is actually implemented on the ground. And similarly, the needs of the people are taken up into the national sphere of government. Next slide. Chairperson, here we're trying to demonstrate the three phases of an Imbizo program, from planning into monitoring processes. From a planning point of view, as soon as an Imbizo program is announced, there are a number of processes that happens as part of the pre-Imbizo program, where the challenges of that particular area are defined and a profiling is actually put together. And as we do the profiling, the intention is that where there are areas that are still lagging behind, where there are programs that are not yet, have not yet moved, we're able to move with them and make them implemented. So there would then be various engagements that would happen prior to the actual Imbizo, through project visits that would happen by different ministers. There would be roundtable discussions that would happen, and also even engagements with the communities as part of the build-up towards the actual Imbizo. That is also where we, as technocrats, we put together the briefing notes for the president, also that on the day of the Imbizo, the president is aware of the actual profiling of the area that he is visiting. On the day itself, we then provide support to the executive, and not only just only support, but we also produce what we call a post-visit or a post-Imbizo report. The intention of the report is to be able to capture all the commitments that would have been made by the politicians, specifically during a question and answer session of the actual Imbizo. where those commitments that are made are also tracked as part of the post-Imbizo engagements. This post-Imbizo engagement means that all commitments that would have been made during the Imbizo are actually taken forward into programs that are then implemented. And on a regular basis, we receive reports, and in those reports are then verified through site visits to actually verify that whatever that is being said in the report is actually being implemented. Chairperson, as you can see, the program itself moves from defining the challenges that are faced by communities, exploring opportunities that are there during the actual Imbizo, and also coming up with solutions in resolving the challenges that would have been faced by the communities. The key stakeholders that forms part of this, and as I indicated earlier, that in an Imbizo program, all stakeholders are required to participate. As I indicated earlier, that the call by the president that no one should be left behind. So in an Imbizo, we have all stakeholders being part of it. Our community members form part of it, and they come as individuals and also as organized as structures, whether it's youth formations or women formations. So they are all invited. We have our local leaders also invited. We do have social partners that form part of the Imbizo through civil society, non-governmental organizations, business, industries, and also even the media, as also touched by my colleague earlier. Chairperson, we also have interest groups. Those that may have particular concerns are also invited to the Imbizo so that their concerns are also taken up and also able to then see how those concerns can be resolved. We also have academia participating so that they can be research-focused type of engagements so that there can be improvements in the communities. And then we have all spheres of government participating in this Imbizos. As I said again, that the president had indicated that we should not leave anyone behind. And I think so far we have demonstrated that we have not been able to leave anyone behind. The next slide, Chair. Chair, this is just a demonstration of some of the tracking that happens after an Imbizo. I extracted one of them. This will be the Gauteng tracking sheet that we had done, where the Deputy President, after the Imbizo that had happened by the President, the Deputy President then tracks the commitments that would have been made if they have happened and what is the status of those. Just to illustrate one, is that we would then have a commitment made by the Minister of Human Settlements in relation to issues that needed to be addressed in one of the projects in the area. And as you can see, progress there, it's an amber, meaning that it is still underway. And as we do the verification, we also check those that the status of it, where it is. There was one a clinic that was fast-tracked, which was done. The only issue now that needs to then be verified is the issue of operations at a local level. And I think this is just to demonstrate that the post-Imbizo monitoring does continue and continues to be strengthened. The next slide, Chair. Chairperson, when it comes to the institutionalization of the Imbizo and the outreach initiatives, I think up until now I have demonstrated in relation to the national program of Imbizos, but we also have the provincial and local government Imbizo programs. At a provincial level, all premiers and the members of the Executive Council do conduct Imbizo programs, and they have termed them slightly different. You would see there are provinces, or the Northwest Province, they call it Tunsalerole, accelerated service delivery program, which happens on a weekly basis. Every Friday, the Premier and the members of the Executive Council go to a particular area and accelerate service delivery and also engage the communities in relation to their challenges. Similarly, with the Interesano program that is happening in Gauteng and other provinces as outlined there. So basically, you also have programs happening on a monthly basis, and others have chosen to do it on a quarterly basis. The same happens at the local level, where mayors conduct Imbizo programs as part of their requirements. The mayor and also the members of the mayoral committee will conduct the Imbizos on a monthly basis. Chairperson, in closing, let me just indicate a few principles that are key in guiding the implementation of an Imbizo, or I would say the citizen-based monitoring program. As a democratic nation, the voice of the citizen is integral in the building of a capable and ethical and developmental state. Without the voice of a citizen in the work that we do, we would have missed the mark. Chairperson, is also very important that these Imbizos, or the citizen-based monitoring, is not a once-off event, but it's a continuous process of building relations and also building the performance of government service delivery machinery. Chair, without government encouraging independent monitoring by civil society and other entities, we would have actually not be able to build the society that we need to see. With others, Chairperson, I think this presentation will be shared with all of you, but just to emphasize that it is very important that the citizen and the civil society in monitoring government performance can actually result in positive outcomes. One of those could be the trust in government would actually increase, and also community ownership, and also improve service delivery. Without the citizen being active, we will not be able to achieve improved accountability across government. With those areas, Chairperson, as we strengthen the institutions and processes of government, it's very important that we really allow and get our citizens' voice very central in the work that we do as government. Chair, I wish to say thank you very much for the opportunity that has been provided to us as South Africa to provide and give context in terms of the South African way of engaging our citizens. With that, I wish to say thank you very much for the opportunity. And Chair, we are here, myself and the team is here. If there are any questions that are difficult for me to answer, I have a full team here with me who will then take in some of those questions. Back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makhosane. It's interesting how both the tools have so many similarities. It's almost interchangeable, that if you put it in one country, it would have a similar name. Thank you very much for that. I'll quickly, for the benefit of time, we will quickly go into our question and answer session. I'm not sure if there are any questions in the chat. Aya, have you seen any questions on your end?
I think there's a hand. Parfait needs you has raised their hand, so maybe you can tend to them.
Okay. Ninitu, you can go ahead and pose your question, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for the presentation from both the DPME and the other colleagues. Thank you so much. My question has to do with the processes for the Imbizo as well as the Barazas. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yes, that's
correct. Noticed that the process. Okay, I noticed that the processes mainly focus on the planning and monitoring side of things, and I was wondering if evaluation is taken into account, more especially in trying to see the impact that these Imbizos have in the long run, and how some of the projects that emanate from such engagements contribute towards the attainment of the National Development Plan goals, as well as some of the SDG goals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, colleagues?
Chair, we also have Williams Obeng.
William, you can go ahead and pose your question.
Thank you. I just want to know how power dynamics are managed, or if your sort of study had anything to do around how power dynamics are, managed. When we talk of public participation or citizen engagement, especially when you have people around the table, there is always a challenge of power dynamics that don't allow certain groups of people to say what they want to say, and others hijacking the meeting, and all that is so common in most citizen engagement sort of sessions. So do you also have something to say about power dynamics and how they affect Imbizos? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I take it, William, that's a question for both participants, eh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and have you had experience in any community-based forums yourself?
Yes, sir. I work for local government, Nelson Mandela Bay, so okay. Public participation, yeah, we get involved.
Good to know. Thank you so much. Ayad, do we have any other questions?
Chair, I'm not sure if you would take two more from the chat and then we can hand over to participants, or however you may do it. So I've got Amashani Naidu, who has a comment that thank you to both speakers for the overview of Barazas and Imbizos. While both presentations discuss the ideologies of the vision, my question is, if these processes are in place, where are the wheels falling off in the citizens becoming more disillusioned with government? So that is Naidu, Chair. And then I've got Mariatha Diedrichs, who says, may I have an explanation of the methodology applied to gather data of the specific area before the Imbizo? So those are 4 first round questions, Chair. And then already for the second round, I can note Madam Serang Obo and a very peculiar colleague by 1859004. So let me hand over to you, Chair, for those first few, then we'll go to the second round.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to remind colleagues from both the Office of the Prime Minister and the DPME that any colleague can jump in to answer some of these questions. This is really a learning engagement between all of us. Just so, yeah, let us feel free. So I'll first start with the Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Muserero. And you.
I'm 1859004. Sorry, I couldn't put my name. My name is Willie Gali.
Fear not, colleague. We will get to your question now. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mr. Muserero and Ugandan colleagues, you've heard the questions. Do you want to organize yourselves and just jump in and answer some of those questions? Thank you.
Yes, Bwana Chair, thank you very much. We are a team of colleagues from Office of the Prime Minister, and headed by our head of department, Timothy, is online, plus the deputy head of department, Mr. Nathan Otun. They all are going to make their comment. Before I can even call in my head of department in to swing the action, I will just speak a few things about the 2 questions. The first one was about the power dynamics, which really was witnessed, especially when the Barazas were starting in Uganda. Like even I mentioned in the presentation, some of the slides, I said at first the program was somehow misunderstood, especially by the politicians. They thought maybe it's another tool that votes maybe for the ruling government, but with time it was understood that this was a purely technical DMEI tool. But we have really involved the political leaders, and we have made an orientation. They embrace it as now when it comes to the question about why emphasize so much on the monitoring and the planning, but not the impact. Well, of course, not the evaluation. When you look at the Imbizos and the Barazas as M&E tools, they create a platform for people to get together and have a monitoring process together, and to look at what outputs have been reported by the service givers, and then provide evidence, and or otherwise also advise the planning table. But whenever I read the Uganda's Barazas, the Barazas were evaluated recently by 3IE. When you read that report, there's something that I learned, that even mere evaluating the impact of the tool itself, it is more or less evaluating, doing an evaluation of the program implementation itself. Because when you evaluate the tool, then you'll be getting the impact of the tool on either improving service delivery or not improving service delivery. So I think as we struggle towards bringing the E into the use of the Barazas, we should think about evaluating the impact of the tool. We shall get to know the evaluation part in the implementation of the Barazas to assess government programs. Let me invite Mr. Otutu Nathan to also have some issues, and then maybe Timothy will also come in later.
Thank you very much, my colleague, and thank you, Chair, and every participant here. I will straight away respond to one of the issues that was raised. The question was, if these processes are in place, why are the wheels falling apart? You will notice that initially, when Barazas had just started, there was a big misunderstanding of these Barazas as a way of witch hunt to the service givers. And you realize with the time, when the people started understanding exactly what it is meant to deliver, they began to appreciate the explanation that the service givers were giving them. Of course, notwithstanding the fact that there are certain situations where Barazas actually expose shortfalls in service delivery by those who are responsible. And when such exposures occur, you can see that some people lose trust in the officers who are given authority to manage the public resources. But you see some of these Barazas incidentally sometimes end up into investigations that take some people to answer certain questions about how they are managing the public resources entrusted into their hands. So you will find that them being in place and still people not finding it like things are working the way they expect. There is a very big gap between the service needed and the resource that is available to deliver that service. And that is why you find, after even doing so many Barazas and so many other things coming up through the Barazas, still you find that people don't seem to see some of the services delivered the way they expect. Most of the reasons oscillate around the resource envelope that is available for the service providers to deliver the services they are entrusted to do. So I also want to add that the Baraza themselves, they had a shortage of understanding to the effect that they did not appreciate what challenges those who are delivering services are facing. In Uganda's experience, we noted that with time and bringing on board this civil society in understanding how the Barazas operate and themselves in understanding how the budget of government is, they started also presenting in a manner that understands that within the small resource, these people who are delivering services are supposed to balance and make sure what they give is commensurate with the resources that have been. An allocation for a road, which might figure that is available for the service givers, is far less than what can deliver that road when it is fully marammed, fully compacted. But when they do a scope which can be handled by that available resource, the service givers can be accused wrongly through Baraza, but the Baraza gives them opportunity to explain themselves, because the community expected a road which is fully marammed, fully gravelled, but the available resource is not the type that can do that work. So understanding from both the civil society side and also the side of the community on what actually is expected from the service givers was lacking at the initial stages. But as we progress, now Uganda, of course, loopholes here and there have been discovered, and those who get culpable through the exposures that the Barazas bring actually are brought to book, and you'll find report arising from this kind of Baraza. So which I seem to see that people should not lose hope. Wheels are falling apart, but wheels, I am sure, within the citizens shouldn't get disillusioned arising from how the operations are. I'm seeing a bright future with this kind of model. I thought I should say those comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome our DPME colleagues to go through some of the questions posed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, facilitator. And I think this is also a platform where we need to see how best we improve on the system. I like the question of the trust deficit between the citizen and the government, and how best we strengthen that. And I think both the Barazas and the Imbizos is one tool that could assist in strengthening the trust deficit that is there. But also there are many others that needs to obviously be put in. Just to share in relation to the district development model, which is also a program that is really trying to fast track service delivery at a local state, with an intention that as we do this, we are actually improving the quality of service that is given to our citizens. Chairperson Nini asked the question of the evaluation aspect, and I think in our context we have yet to do the evaluation, and I think we take that as an input that we would have to look at, and more so if these have had an impact in terms of improving the quality of service. The question of to say the methodology used to gather information as part of the planning phase or the pre-Imbizo phase. There are multiple approaches we use, and I think we have indicated from a profiling point of view that is obviously utilized to gather information, also even engagements with the citizens, and that's the methods that we employ as part of the sessions. And I think we do indicate that as we do that, we do also try to solve and deal with some of the challenges that are in the areas. The issue of power dynamics, Chairperson, I think this one is it will always be there, considering the fact that an Imbizo and a Barazas would be a space where all citizens are engaged. And so far, I think those have been managed very well. And the citizens' views have been taken up. But I do agree that there are cases where there are certain groupings within communities that would have a higher voice, and the actual real issue that should be dealt with may not be dealt, or even they shift the discussion. I think that's the risks that are in the system, and they would need to then be looked at differently. Maybe if you allow me, Chair, that I call on my colleague Sibongile specifically just to touch on the question of dynamics, because we do have a tool that we usually employ as we do some of the smaller engagements that speaks to the focus group engagements and discussions. Sibongile, if you want to maybe just to come in, just to air your views on the methods that we would normally utilize to create an environment that is conducive for everyone to engage. Sibongile? Chair, I'm not sure if I'm the one who can hear her.
She's not audible. Maybe she's also fallen off.
Okay.
But we can always go for another round of questions and then let her jump in when it's time.
Let's do that, Chair. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Doc, do you want to go through another round of questions, please?
Thank you, Chair. So I think we have Ms. Serangobo, whose hand has been up for quite some time, and the colleague with the number and not the name. I think he was introducing himself before he stopped. So in that order, and then I'll just read out some of the questions in the chat so that colleagues can just sort of respond to them, because I'm mindful of time, Chair. So there was also Sibonelo Mkhize who was saying, how do we ensure that we go beyond these PR for executive and actually putting in place systems to align concerns raised with plans of government to address concerns? It would be great if more work is put on responses after the actual outreaches than work done in preparation. I think Mr. Muserero did also touch on this a bit, as well as Mr. Makhosane, especially with the post-Imbizo tracking mechanism that they have. And I think also Chief Director Mulaiwa also touched on how DPME at times, when they're drafting the National Evaluation Plan, they also go to the post-Imbizo reports to prioritize some of the evaluations that will be reflected or articulated in the National Evaluation Plan as presented by DPME on behalf of all of government. So, Chair, those are some of the engagements. But I think let me hand over to Ms. Serangobo, and then the colleague with the number, I will come after Ms. Serangobo.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Doc. And I also want to appreciate the presentations that were made by Mr. Muserero and Mr. Makhosane. They were quite insightful. The question is for everybody, especially given the discussions that have been on the table in the monitoring and evaluation associations regarding capacity development. Most of the time when we speak capacity development, in terms of M&E, we often look at the officials, government officials the most. And if you check the programs, I've had an opportunity to read some of the things that Uganda has been doing, given that they are also a bit ahead in Africa in terms of monitoring and evaluation. And there's just too much talk about courses. They've also got a structure similar to South Africa, the National School of Government, that does a lot of training on monitoring and evaluation. And how do we then bring in our citizens? What are we thinking in terms of building the capacity of our citizens in M&E? I know in South Africa there are community development workers and all that, but there's been a huge gap in terms of developing the capacity of citizens to monitor. Thank you.
Thank you. And our colleague with the numbered name, I forgot the name. You're welcome, colleague.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Willie Gully. I'm from the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in the province Eastern Cape.
Welcome.
In South Africa. Kokta, yes. Chair, what's his name was also now spoiling everything, the load shedding that we are experiencing. And even that have an impact on how we engage our communities. But I'm very, very happy. And, when someone can talk about the communities across various countries across Africa, it means that the agenda which is set by the African Union, indeed, we are looking into that because the communities, it's for them that we are here as government. So, Chair, I just want to bring in that, we try to bring in the 4IR as part of the assisting the communities with reporting, monitoring what government is implementing. So we do have these very, very kind of ways of bringing them in the public to be part and parcel of with us. But we are losing some of these because there is no, from my side now, from looking from the Kokta side, we do have the community development workers. We do have our public participation committees that are put up. We have our ward committees. We have war rooms. We have Imbizos, and. But at the end of the day, our communities are still unhappy. So somewhere there is a gap in the chain that we have that we need to close. So I was of the opinion maybe that as we go, as we know, historically our communities had the inherent belief of coming together to discuss the culture, to discuss the services that they receive, etc. How can we then as government make use of those constructive criticism that we are receiving, from the communities, and ensure that we improve, communication, improve how to guide and advise and take into account, because even they would tell us about the risks of implementing projects or not implementing projects, and bring that, the changes to our key policy priorities about that. Somehow, Chair, we need to bring that together. And I was always thinking about, how to improve the relationship with the resources and the outcomes. And maybe, we need to go into doing now these evaluations of these various structures, community structures that we have, and ensure that there is an impact, because it's no use we have all the resources that we put out, but protests and unhappy and wrong implementation of projects are happening. So I'm trying to find that link. Maybe, as you said, maybe the evaluations needs to kick in so that we can get a new vision and see if we can bring this vision now with the 4IR. And then, because now we will need then electricity in South Africa to help us with that, and build in, you know, all our cultural stuff in that, and for the betterment of the life of our people as put out in our constitution. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Due to time, colleagues, I'm just gonna request our colleagues from the Office of the Prime Minister in Uganda and the DPME in South Africa to just give short answers, please. Colleagues from Uganda, please, you can go ahead and answer some of these questions and maybe touch on some of the comments that have been made. Thank you.
Okay. As the head of department here is trying to recall what has been from the preceding speaker, I could say that there were about 2 comments that had been written here, and they wanted to know how often the Baraza is being held in Uganda and who spearheads it. The Baraza is a tool under the Office of the Prime Minister, and therefore it is spearheaded by the Right Honourable Prime Minister, though she delegates the Minister for General Duties to directly be in charge under the direction. Every financial year, we plan for 50 Barazas, and these are implemented in the country. The districts are just selected by sampling, and also looking at where resources have been disbursed, where much resources have been disbursed, and the balancing between urban local governments and rural local governments. I think the last speaker, maybe Chair, you could like give some highlights of the last speaker's question, so that.
But maybe before that, there is a thank you very much. There was an earlier one. I saw it as a comment which was general and arising from capacity building of the communities to do monitoring. Through this process, if we talk about Uganda, like I hinted earlier on in the first submission, that the excitement with which the communities took it up was uncontrolled, because it was completely misconstrued and misunderstood in the initial stages. So capacity of the communities to do the monitoring through this tool called Baraza is a process that has to be built with time, as they keep understanding what limits they have, how far they can go questioning. But the questioning should be informed by understanding what policy framework exists, what is the mandate of the people they're asking services from, and what is the resource available to them before they ask too much beyond what can be provided by those people. So the whole exercising the community, meaning tool of M&E, I mean, using that tool, we have said something that will take a while and needs, and in that way, as they get to understand the process.
Okay. Thank you very much. DPME colleagues, you're welcome to chime in.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I think, Chair, from the statements or the comments made, we cannot overemphasize the importance of independent monitoring by civil society and communities. And I think we have made that point very clear to say, as government, we take that role that they play very importantly, and it is there to strengthen and also improve the quality of service that we give, and I think it's quite important for that. With regards to the 4IR and Chair, this is where we also needs to improve, where we need to really get even the younger ones participating through various methods, whether it's social media platforms and be able to then respond to their queries accordingly. So it's quite an important area of work that requires development because at the moment you would then find that younger people do not really even attend the Imbizos. And I think that is an area that we would need to strengthen going forward. But if you allow, Chair, that we maybe bring in on board my colleague in the evaluations, maybe just to touch in and also indicate some of the work that we've been doing from an evaluation space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. They are welcome. Mr. Makhosane, your colleague's name?
Oh, okay. Sister Gozile, may you maybe just come in if you don't mind? I apologize, colleague, Chairperson. It looks like there's a challenge this side. Earlier when I called Sibongile, she did indicate that she's experiencing load shedding and she could not join back. But I think we have responded to some of those items or the questions that have been asked. If there's any, we are here. And okay. Thank you very much, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Doc, can I wrap up?
No, yes, Pafea, just to thank on my side the colleagues for the engagement. And I think, Chair, OPM Uganda, the Directorate for Monitoring, Evaluation and Inspection, as well as local government, and then on the South African side, Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, as well as COGTA, will certainly lead Mbele's engagements on these community-based M&E forums, because I think having engaged for over an hour and a half, there is clearly appetite for this. So I think that's something, Chair, that the countries themselves naturally will lead and imprint into the Mbele program. So let me hand over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doc. I think one of or a few things that stood out would definitely be how similar the two tools are in terms of, you know, these tools being a way of government to account to citizens, a way for communities to have their say to the government in terms of projects, and a way of citizens to almost get buy-in, or a way for government to promote projects to citizens. And I see that similarity between the two tools, and obviously these very same tools are also used as a way to for these two institutions, the DPME and the Office of the Prime Minister, to learn and get feedback from programs. And in terms of the questions that are coming out a lot here, obviously it's around the evaluations of Imbizos and Barazas, and I think which is would be a great opportunity for us as Mbele, or to say, in terms of the initiative or the partnership, that we actually have that discussion to see how maybe we could lend a hand or to work with the two countries in that front in terms of evaluations. And the major thing that stood out for me is to see how both the Barazas and the Imbizos are recognized by law in terms or recognized or formalized in law in terms of legislation and the constitution of the two countries. Colleagues, I want to thank you again for your participations, for all the questions that were posed today. I want to thank the DPME, as always, for allowing us to partner up in these brown bag learning events. I want to thank OPM for coming to the fore and presenting on the Barazas, and just to give us insight on how this tool is working in that country. Thank you, colleagues. Have a wonderful Thursday. I'll be sure to send out the presentations to you colleagues, and also send out an edited video for those who would want to watch it on a later stage. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Thursday afternoon and evening. We'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.